I didn't have it set up for anything. I just had a line on it and I was just using it.
Okay.
Time for the Angler Within podcast with Roy Bilby.
Should have been here yesterday, Roy. The fishing was great.
Yeah. Story of our life.
How much do you hate when people say that to you when you go somewhere and it's slow?
My reaction immediately, well, let's see how it is today. Let's make this happen.
I'll show
You know?
you.
Power of a positive attitude.
I prefer to refer to problems as challenges.
Yeah. Put them in a different perspective. Because if you deal with them as problems, they're still problems.
I once met a rabbi, spent some time with him, and we chatted. And I asked him what the trick was he was like 40 years into his marriage or whatever it was. I was like, what's the trick? I always ask that question to anybody, whether it's 3 years or 40. I ask the same thing. And he said, there are no bad days, only growth days, is what he said. You can't look at a bad day in a marriage.
Wow,
He said it's only a growth day in a marriage.
There's a lot of insight right there.
Yeah. So just like that, no problems, just challenges. And speaking of challenges, I'm leveling up my bass game.
Okay.
With getting more, I don't want to say technical, but paying more attention and following how things work. Like, I realized, although I was in denial, I have given zero thought ever to what type of line weight I'm putting onto a rod. I've got 5 rods in my quiver, 1 spinning rod, and 4 bait casters, and we're going to set those up today with your help because I've got everything bass backwards. No pun intended.
We need to talk about this. Every rod has a specific purpose with a specific line weight and type for what I'm using that specific rod for. I have them all set up for different things. And it's awesome you bring this up because I got direct message by Matt Bull, one of our listeners, good friend of ours, and he posed the question, what would I recommend as a good all-around rod and reel setup for someone if they just had one rod and reel? What should they use and how should they set it up for general fishing? And I went, oh, that's a great question. And with what you're talking about is the polar opposite of that. So let's dive into them both.
Perfect. Well, why don't we go over the direct message first? Hi, Matt.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for sending in the question. He had a couple of them, and the second one we'll address on another podcast.
Okay.
And so dealing with the all-around rod, I would recommend if I was going with a bait caster, someone wants to do that, what should I get? I would recommend a 7-foot, either a medium or a medium heavy action. I think for someone starting out, a 7-foot medium action and a good bait cast reel, I would recommend an Abu Garcia or a Luz or any of the Bass Pro Shops models. You want a bait caster, and they come in both right and left hand models, depending on which way you're handed, and something like a 7.1 gear ratio. That's a good all around, not too fast, certainly not slow at all. Good grief. When I was starting back in the dark ages, 3.8 to 1 was what people used for cranking. And now they use a 7.1 because it's a slow reel by today's standards. If you look at the old reels, it was just the reel. And now, because of the gear ratios being so tall, there's a huge gearbox right where your reel handle is. And that never used to be that way, but they've increased gear ratios ridiculously. I mean, 5 to 1 was the standard back in the day. And I don't know if anybody even makes a 5 to 1 anymore. They just don't. So 5 to 1 was the standard back in the day. I don't even know if you can find one anymore. Everything is 6.3, 7.1. The burner reels, quantum burner reels, 8.3, something like that. And there's 9 to 1s. There's even I forget who makes it, but the gear ratio is 10 to 1. I mean, blistering fast. You don't need that. If you're just starting out, find a nice 7-foot medium action that feels right to you with a 7-to-1 bait cast reel. Just go ahead and put 12-pound mono in it. And that's what you're going to use to get started. That's a good all-around bait cast rod and reel for someone starting out. And you can do a lot with that. You can literally throw anything you want with that and catch fish. That's a good general all-around
So when
outfit.
when you say that, throw anything you want, you're talking about the weight of the lure.
Yeah, pretty much. At jigs, skirted bass jigs, up to half ounce with a trailer, any top water. You're going to have to. A lot of top waters are light. You're going to have to get familiar with a bait cast rod and reel, but we talked about how to do that. Spinner baits, plastic worm, pretty much anything you want to throw. Other than I wouldn't throw a 1-ounce jig on 12-pound line. I'd go up to 17 or 20, something like that, possibly fluorocarbon. But just starting out for an all-around rig, good basic components, just put 12-pound monofilament on it and go catch some fish. If you're looking for a spinning rod, and spinning reels come in either left or right hand models, you just switch the handle, but you can't do that with a bait caster. But again, I like a 7-foot rod. You're going to be able to make good long casts. You're going to be able to really play a fish a lot better. Again, a 7-foot medium action spinning rod. I would put braided line on that reel. And if you go with 10 to 15 pound braid, you'll be set up for whatever you want to catch. So
What size reel?
probably a 20 or a 30. And either one would be fine on a 7-foot rod. If you're just doing, go with a 30 size reel, a 3000 size. You're going to have a lot of line capacity, and you'll be able to do everything you want with that. So those are, I think, good all around general recommendations for that person who's looking for one rod and wants to do a lot of bass fishing with it. Now, I'm pretty much a specialist, so I mean, if you want to target crappie and bluegill, I wouldn't do it with that. You'll be fine, but I like the enjoyment I get out of using ultralight tackle and getting every ounce of fight out of that fish. And with the lighter lines and the lighter equipment, they are ideally suited to throwing those 16th ounce jigs that I use for the crappie and the bluegill and for the perch. And nothing like playing those fish on those ultralight rods. So you get everything out of the fish and you're not overgunned.
Mhm.
So it's the same thing. I love to squirrel hunt, but I'm not going in with my 30 caliber deer rifle. I'm going in with a rimfire, either a 22 or 17, because the tool matches the task. Same thing with the fishing rods. Now you could take that medium action spinning rod with that 3000 reel and that 10-pound braid, and you could throw a 16th ounce jig, but you're not going to get it out there like you would if you were using an ultralight and 6-pound braid. It's just not going to, it's not well suited to it. So when I put out these recommendations for the bait caster and the spinning rod, I'm talking bass fishing.
That's the dog dropping her bone just now. Did you hear that?
Is that? Yeah, I did. First thing I was going to say, that wasn't me. I saw you turn your head.
The dog killed a squirrel this week, by the way, a baby squirrel. I don't think she
youngster.
meant to. I think she was playing with it. I'll send you the video. It's
Okay.
She threw that thing like 8 feet into the air, flipping it.
Oh, wow.
Snapped its neck bigger than life. Just threw
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I don't think she was being mean and like. I mean, I know that she's an apex predator, but she was just going
Playing.
down. So happy.
squirrel's-
I haven't seen her that happy in months.
The squirrel's like, this is not fun for me.
Yeah, there is more to that story.
Yeah.
But
Yesterday, I went out to get my gear in my truck for the student that was coming to go fishing with me, and a long-tailed weasel came out of our stone wall. Like, where'd you come from? Pretty cool critters. Only the second one I've ever seen. We've been here 24 years. Only the second one I've ever seen.
so you would say both? You would do a spinning rod and a bait caster just to get that learning curve out of the way now, early in the quest.
Well, that's not what I meant. He said one rod just for general angling. for an all-around outfit.
Okay.
So if your preference was for spinning, that would be my recommendation. If your preference is for bait casting, that would be my recommendation.
My recommendation is to get both.
Yeah, mine too. 10 of each for starters. But they would not all be the same. So let's get into that part of this.
Yes. So my stupid genius, I managed to buy
Is that like an oxymoron?
kind of, but my blind buying worked out perfectly because Roy, as you know, I started off on a spinning rod and reel.
Yep.
And I had an ugly stick that I was throwing forever, and then I swapped out the reel on that one because I broke the reel that was on it, and then I ended up picking up another rod and reel. Well, no, I got another rod and reel combo. That was a spinning combo from Bass Pro when I headed up to the Finger Lakes, or not to the Thousand Islands last year, up to St. Lawrence.
Okay.
So one of the rods is a spinning rod and reel combo, and then the rest of them are all going to be bait casters. So let's do.
You have been converted.
I have been converted, 100%.
And let me just say right here, I mean, we got you a good combo at Bass Pro Shots. We got you that
the Mock
loose.
Smash. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That right out the gate, you were casting very well with that.
Well, thank you.
Very well.
I appreciate that.
Oh, I was
You were impressed? All right. Well, thanks. I'm a natural. Well, you know, like what I was saying the other day to you, the other day. I just like to say V instead of T. Other day.
The other day.
The other day, I was saying to you that the sensation of whipping a bait caster, is one of the it's the same kind of of like an addiction you can get to, like a yo-yo, or just that, you whip it and you watch this thing fly, and it hopefully it didn't backlash. When it backlashes, I don't feel very fun with it. But when I do a good one, Roy, when I have a good cast and it's aimed well and I'm hitting my target area and I got everything going, when you're in the zone. Yeah, it's a whole different experience than a spinning reel. Completely. It's not the same.
Completely.
So my spinning rod combo is a Lose. It is a laser HS or H5. I think it's HS speed stick. Medium fast. 6.6.
Okay.
My desire for that rod, purpose wise, and it's got a 2000 size Fluger on it. Nice Fluger spinning reel.
Good reel.
My idea for that one is drop shot.
Okay, how long's the rod?
6.6.
Yeah, that's what I use for my drop shot.
A 6.6.
Yep.
All right, so that one worked out. Stupid genius though. I had no idea.
6'3".
Yours is 6'3". I'm 6'6".
Yep.
I'm only 5'10" in real life. But 6.
Hey, I'm the drummer here.
I have to get a sound effect for that.
Yeah.
So, what should I line that with for doing the drop shots?
For drop shotting, I use braid for my main line, and I use 12-pound braid on my drop shot rod. But that doesn't really matter as much as what you attach to it for your drop shot. Now, I've been buying these. They're pre-tied. If you're familiar with, VMC makes a drop shot hook called the Spin Shot, and I was using those exclusively. Now, there's a way when you tie your drop shot hook into your line, when you tie it in, you actually leave a long tag end off for your dropper for your weight, and you take that lead, that dropper, once you tie the knot, and you loop it back through the eye of the bait over the top and pull it down through. That gets your drop shot hook to sit out to the side so it's positioned properly. Otherwise, it's just going to hang or dangle. And
that's tying direct on that braid?
No, floral or mono on the end of it for your leader.
Okay, how long is that?
A lot of people do, a 10-foot leader, 15-foot leader. I don't. What I do, and we've talked about this a lot, when I use braid on a bait caster or even on my ultralight combos for my panfish, I tie direct to the braid. I don't use a leader, and it has not diminished the amount of fish I catch at all. I've experimented and I tested it in the beginning, and there was virtually no difference in the reaction from the fish whatsoever. It did not deter them. So I stopped using a leader. And again, in bass tournaments, I am tying direct, and I have not seen it affect the outcome of the number of strikes or fish I land versus using a leader. But again, I'm fishing local stuff. I'm not on a national tour fishing heavily pressured lakes, like Toledo Bend or Lake Fork or California Delta or any of these places that just get bombarded with fishermen constantly every single day. So I think that makes a difference in how line shy that fish get and what you have to do to catch them. Where I fish, I don't think it's that critical, and my results have shown me that nope, it's not. But when I use a drop shot, I believe it is, because that bait is sitting there and they've got all this time to inspect it. It's not a moving bait like a chatterbait or a spinnerbait or a topwater or a crankbait or any of the above. So when I use a drop shot, what I've done is I've gone to the Bass Pro Shops pre-tied drop shot rigs. They're tied with fluorocarbon, and they have about a 3-4 foot leader tied to just a swivel, and then they have their own spin shot hooked in. And what that is, it's a wonderfully made, perfect size drop shot hook, and they come in sizes 2 and 4 from Bass Pro Shops.
You actually put me on those when I was headed up to the St. Lawrence. That was what
Yeah.
you said. You said, you want to make it easy on yourself? Just get a couple of these and you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
And that's the case. I still have half of them left.
They're all set up with the fluorocarbon, like 3 or 4 foot leader with a swivel on top of it. Their spin shot hook tied to that, which is basically a hook inside a swivel. So it rotates, but it always is held horizontally in that perfect position. You don't have to tie a knot and loop it through and all that. You just tie it to the swivel on the end of the leader. And then they have another fluorocarbon dropper coming off that spin shot hook that you attach your weight to. They're pre-tied, they're fluorocarbon, and I absolutely love them. And they're a great deal. You get 5 of them on a card. All you have to do is pull them off the card, tie them to your braid, and then put your drop shot weight on the tag, and you're good to go. And they're 5 in a card, and they're like $3. You can't, I got 20 packs of them on the pegboard hook in my basement. So it's like I said to you, you want to make it easy on yourself. So there's the tip of the day for everybody out there. Make it easy on yourself. Go get these at Bass Pro Shops in whatever size you prefer. Number 2 hook, number 4 hook. I love them. They're phenomenal. They're easy. The hooks are sturdy and they catch them. And it's the no muss, no fuss. Tie it, go. It's simple.
So there we go. Drop shot rig set up. We're good. That rod and reel is good to go in the boat.
Yep. So that takes care of that one.
I have a pair. I bought a pair of St. Croix Bass X rods.
Holy
one
cow,
is a medium. One is a medium heavy.
What has happened to you?
One is a fast. Yeah, they're both fast. They're both fast action. One is a medium. One's a medium heavy. I just did that by accident. I did not pay attention to what I bought when I got those, but I got one of each. So let's talk what we're doing with them. So medium heavy is for a larger fish and a larger lure, which is going to put that into the, right? Am I correct with that one, right? Medium.
Yeah, right. More stout, more power down towards the butt end of the rod. The medium heavy, the medium action, the light action, that all talks about the parabolic action of the rod, how it bends overall tip to butt and where that bend starts. But when you're talking about the tip, whether it's a fast action or a medium action, that's talking about the very tip of the rod, how much flex it has. A fast action has a lot more flex. A slow action or a medium action has less flex. It's a little bit stiffer in the tip. And what that's for, why would I want a medium heavy rod with a fast action, a real flexible tip? Most guys are using the medium heavy or the heavy action for flipping and heavy cover, but you don't want a pool cue type rod because you have no tip action and it's hard to place your lure exactly where you want. If you're flipping and pitching, you're making short but pinpoint cast to specific targets, and that fast tip will allow you to do that. It's much more accurate. I just wanted to clarify that there's a difference between the action of the rod and when they say medium heavy fast, the fast is referring to the very tip action of the rod. So go ahead and continue.
So for this medium heavy, are you saying that I should make that my flipping and pitching rod? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you have it set up for?
I didn't have it set up for anything. I just had a line on it and I was just using it.
Okay.
Sometimes I was successful. Sometimes it was a disaster. It might be because of the weight of the stuff I was using and the line that was on it.
And
So-
what lure you were through or what technique you were using it for.
Exactly. So this would be set up. You're saying that this is my frogs and
Yes. Yep.
what else on that?
I have several rods in the medium heavy action category that I have set up. One is set up for throwing a frog. I've got heavy braid on that.
So we're talking 20 pound.
No, I'm talking 50.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. They're not seeing the line. You're throwing a frog across cheese mats. Well, what we call cheese mats. It's, algae mats and heavy vegetation, grass, lily pads. All they're seeing is the action of that lure. And
Right.
you need that heavy braid. They're going to wrap up in that stuff and you can winch them out with
Yank
that.
it right out.
Bring the debris with the fish.
So so I'm using those for top waters and then
Frog top water because of where you're throwing it.
right.
A traditional top water, I'm not throwing on that.
No.
Like, is there a spook or a buzz bait? I'm not throwing them on that. I'm
Right.
also using it for punching, which is you're using a 1 ounce or ounce and a half weight on a creature plastic, like a Yum Woolly Bugger, the big heavy plastics.
Just the silly looking things, those crazy looking dumb things that have like long arms on them and stuff.
Yeah,
And
they're called creature baits.
creature baits.
Try it.
I'll call them creature baits from now on, Roy.
Okay.
Not
That
Not
it's just
stupid long-legged things that are all rubber.
yeah. And they're not rubber, they're plastic. They
Right,
used
you know
to
what I
be.
mean. You know what I mean.
I do. Everybody
fine.
says rubber worm and makes my skin crawl. It's a plastic worm. Okay. It's not a rubber worm. It was in 1940 when they came out with it. Now they're all made of plastisol. So,
Okay, so going on to the next one.
Yeah.
Medium.
medium action.
Yep, medium fast.
I love a medium action for spinnerbait. That's one of my favorite rod setups. 7 foot or 7'2" medium action with a fast tip, because you can plant that spinnerbait wherever you want. But most of the time, I'm throwing a spinnerbait on 12-pound monofilament. I am. There's stretch to the line, and the rod is very forgiving. Keep in mind that this is a moving bait, and when you're running that spinnerbait through the water, a largemouth or smallmouth is going to come up behind that thing, and they open their mouth, which creates a vacuum type effect to suck in that spinnerbait. They don't always hit it from the side and clobber it. A lot of times they'll come up behind it and open their mouth, which creates that vacuum and suction. When that rod is under load, reeling in that spinnerbait, there has to be enough give that still remains in that medium action and the stretch of that mono to actually let that spinnerbait go back to that fish. So you need the shock absorption of monofilament and the medium action of the rod for that to happen. If you're going out there with braided line, and this classic example, if we're using the last rod we talked about, that medium heavy action with 50-pound braid, and you're throwing a spinnerbait, you're going to miss a lot of strikes, because those fish that track behind that bait and try to open their mouth and engulf it, that line and that rod are not going to give one iota. And you're going to have, I had one, or I just had a strike, but I didn't hook them. If you're using a medium action and 12-pound mono, you're going to hook those fish. It makes a huge difference.
Skirted
Trust
jigs
me on this.
Skirted jigs as well on this.
Skirted jig, I'm back on my medium heavy.
Okay, we'll go back to that then. All right,
We'll go back to that.
What else am I putting on this medium fast?
I would use that for top water. I would use
hula poppers
clarify.
through
Hula poppers,
Chopos and
any of the walking baits, Xeraspook, a Chopo, a buzzbait.
Whopper Plopper.
Yeah. Yep. If depending on the fishery and how much, I mean, if I'm fishing it over grass, I'm probably using 15-pound monofilament, just a little bit heavier line. If that fish grabs it and then gets wadded up in grass.
So instead of 12, I should go to 15 on that?
I would for general all around top water. Yeah, it just covers it. Matter of fact, if it's a top water, I'm throwing it on either monofilament or braid. And you can use 15-pound in either category for that.
All right. So I should do one with braid, one with mono.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then see what you like best as far as giving actions to the lure and hook response and stuff like that. Like a normal, here's where my tendencies would lean. If I'm using a buzz bait, I would probably use mono for the extra stretch. But if I'm using a walking bait like a Chopo or a Xeraspook, I'd throw that on the braid.
Okay.
And the reason I'm using mono or braid and never fluorocarbon with the top water, because fluorocarbon sinks and monofilament and braid both float. Braid floats better, but that's my recommendation. It'll just help with your presentations, keep your baits up, help them walk correctly.
Perfect. All right. So because I've got the smash that you gave me.
Yep.
That's a medium. And I'm assuming you put the 12-pound mono on that one. I think that's probably what it is. So my other medium, I should go 15-pound braid, is what you're saying, just to have them two different kinds.
So you have two options out there.
Okay. All right. Now, my other medium heavy rod is a Mach 1 speed stick. Nice rod. She's a Ferrari. I'm not very. It's got a 10 bearing reel on it. I'm not very good at throwing it. That's a little bit of that one tends to mess me up a little bit.
Because it's silky smooth. Tighten up your spool tension ever so slightly.
Okay.
And turn up the magnets a little bit. It'll help.
Yeah, that when I pull it out, I don't plan on keeping it out more than like a couple casts. Usually it renders itself useless.
And if I get away with that, I'm good.
That's right. Yeah. So what am I putting on that one?
Okay, what was the rod action?
It's a medium heavy fast.
Do you like throwing a skirted bass jig with like a craw trailer?
Yeah.
Okay. That's your rod for that.
Okay.
And you can, because of where we put these jigs, you can go ahead and put 20-pound braid on that. Mine, I have 2 7-foot. Everybody knows my tournament arsenal is the Bass Pro Shops Carbon Light 2.0s. Absolutely love them. Got 17 of them in different lengths, actions with different gear ratios, 3 spinning rods and 14 bait casters. That is my tournament arsenal, and it covers everything I need to do. I have 2 7-foot medium heavy bait casters, 7-to-1 gear ratio reels. Those are the ones that I use for my jigs. I have 2 of them set up. I have 17-pound Bass Pro Shops mono or Trilene XT on both of those. I don't like throwing the jig on braid. I prefer mono. That's just my preference. I'm more comfortable with it. And using 17, I've never had a problem.
So what are you saying I should do with this one then? With this, should I mono this one? So I got one braid and one mono on the medium heavy, and then I've got one braid and one mono on the medium.
I'm kind of old school. I like throwing the jig on the heavy mono.
I'm fine with that. So I go into the store. What am I getting? I'm writing this down. For that one. Tell me exactly what I'm getting for that line.
17-pound ultra low visibility green Trilene XT. Anything you hook, you're going to be able to pull out of that stuff. Most guys are going to go, why does he do that? Put on 20-pound braid and don't even think about it. And you can do that too. But here's the thing. Braid will cut into itself and mono won't. When I'm throwing that jig with that trailer, I'm looking for my kicker fish. I'm looking for a 5 or 6 pound largemouth. And that bait will produce those fish many, many times in bass tournaments on the grass lakes. We're using a Texas rig. We're using spinner baits. We're using top waters. Once we get a limit, we drop those. And if we got bright sunny conditions, we're picking up that that jigging rod and we're going to weed beds, and now we're looking to cull. That is my cull rod. And I'm looking for a 5 or 6 pound largemouth. And if you're using 17-pound mono, you're going to be able to pull them out of anything that they're in. But if you're using 20-pound braid and you're pulling them out of that heavy stuff and you got a big fish on a medium heavy action rod and you're trying to leverage him out of heavy stuff, that braid can have a tendency to cut down into itself on that reel. And that's a mess. That's a problem. I avoid it completely by using mono. That's my reasoning. And I'm sure there's people that have strong opinions the other way, and everybody's entitled to that. It's always worked for me and it's never failed me. And if it works, I don't fix it. You're going to have less casting issues with that too on a bait caster. Picking out backlashes is not fun, but it's much easier with mono than it is with braid. Voice of experience, and everybody's nodding their head right now going, yep, he's got that part right. They may disagree with me on what I use for a jig and heavy cover, and that's fine. I'm going with what has always worked for me and never given me a headache. So
this season is one where I will be more specialized and strategic on all of it. Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
It's awesome. We're creating a monster.
You are. And what a step up. That's like the next level. It's the next thing. I never, and I'm not afraid to say that because
coming from a fly rod trout guy,
I know,
and I have the utmost respect for that. I do. It's poetry in motion.
Well,
and that's an art form.
Plus, recently getting a tournament kayak is helping me also. Want to make sure. My goal is to get into a couple of KBF tournaments this summer. That's what I want to try and do. So,
and let's keep you updated on that. I'll keep everybody updated on my tournament wanderings and how that all goes.
Yeah. So. No, it's going to be a fun year. And, it'll be a good one. This is going to be season 2 is big things, big changes.
Changes happening in season 2. I did want to do, and I promised I would do a recap. Our last episode, I said, heading out for another crappie trip, and win, lose, or draw, I will tell you how it went down. It went down well. I hooked up with a dear friend of mine. We hunt and fish together a lot. We were in high school together. We're both retired. So now he's got 11 years under his belt. I got 2.5 under mine. He waited a long time for me to retire, but we hadn't fished together in a while and hadn't really seen each other since deer season. I said, I need to go crappie fishing. I've been out once and I had decent results for early season, but I said it should be even better now. And we went out targeting crappie. Oh my God. We had 46 crappie on the day and other fish too. Primarily crappie, hands down. Squirm and shad was the bait. And we went to the same lake I started on, and I went to my go-to spot. And at first cast, I had a crappie. Second cast, I had a largemouth, and he did the same thing. He caught fish on his second and third cast, and we picked up 6 fish there in about 6 minutes, and then it stopped. So we moved out a little bit. Same thing, 2 fish apiece, bang, 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 and it stopped. So I tried moving in, tried moving out, tried moving up and down the line, staying in that same general core area, which has always produced crappie for me. And it did that day, but just not very many. So I said, we're going to need to expand our search. Now, out towards the middle of this body of water where we had a mid-depth area, it was like 8 or 9 feet deep, and the grass was just starting to come up off the bottom. It was not quite a foot tall. It was probably 6-8 inches high. And I said, last time I was here, I checked that area and I caught a real nice crappie there, but only one. But every day's different. So he was there for a reason. And we went there, and oh my goodness, we lit them up. Not at first. We caught enough to keep us there, but after about an hour, a switch flipped and it was on for an hour and a half. We had a great day. And like I said, I kept out of that, I kept 14 and he kept 10. So we only brought home half of them, and we released all the rest. And again, we have a length limit in New York State, and we have a bag limit. You're allowed 25 a day, and we just had ourselves a day. I don't know if I want to clean 25 crappie. I've got a bunch in the freezer now. I had a smashing bluegill day yesterday on some bluegill that were they looked like they were inflated. It was just amazing to catch bluegill that size. So the bluegill and crappie is happening right now. And I did get a turkey the 7th day I hunted. Got my we're allowed 2 in New York in the month of May. They have to be gobblers. They have to be bearded birds. I've hunted in the rain every day but one this year. It's just been brutal. But I got a nice 2-year-old bird, 20.5 pounds, 8.5-inch beard, and 7/8 inch spurs. Just a real solid, good, mature tom. Made a great shot, dropped him clean in his tracks, just the way you want it to happen. That was at 5:40 in the morning. So I did not get up at 3:30 a.m. the next day. May is the month of no sleep for this guy. Between the fishing trips and getting up 3:30 every morning to turkey hunt, I feel like The Walking Dead some days. But it's all worth it. All worth it. The great outdoors. Absolutely love it. And I want to thank Matt for sending in his questions. We will address his other question on the very next podcast. And please, if you guys out there have questions for us, if you think you've got something that would make a good topic for a podcast episode, direct message me on my Instagram account at Roy Bilby, all lowercase, no spaces, and I'd be happy to address them and just share the information that I may have on whatever topic you got. I'd love to do that.
You just stole my thunder. That was my line.
You do it every week.
I know.
So
I know. You
throw
wanted
in
to give it a try.
So why don't you tell them to do that, and we'll help them tap into their angler within.
Sure. Well, whether you got one spinning rod or 4 mismatched bait casters, we're here all the time, every week, hopefully, making a shot at it to help you tap into your angler within.